You are live. Welcome to the Show. It is Saturday, August 15th, 2026. And we've got a full slate like we always do. And the first topic of today is Steve Cohen, the Mets Citi Field. And for Queens residents, who asked us if we wanted a casino here? Let me rephrase it. Whose city does this belong to? Is it ours? Or does it belong to the people who have the money? There are close to 500,000 residents in Corona, Queens alone. That's the surrounding area of Citi Field. Now, this is an overhead view, and these are renderings of what this is going to look like. They already broke ground last year in 2025. That's Citi Field on the right. These blue squares, these little rectangles, these are parking structures. This is Roosevelt Avenue. That's what's represented by the N. So this is the south side. The casino will be here on the left side, and then you're going to have parks in between Citi Field and the casino. Now let's get into it. I'm going to give you a little disclosure here. I spoke to one of my friends from 20 years ago. Now, he's been really involved in trying to stifle this operation, this project from occurring. And he's very concerned that putting a casino in the heart of our city, this is a very important part of our city. He's worried, he's concerned, as many residents are, that this is further going to deteriorate our way of life. Now, before we even begin, if I ask you a binary question, do you think a casino is good or bad for a neighborhood? What is your answer? Without doing any research, I would think it's pretty bad. Think Atlantic City, think Las Vegas. You also have to think about the economic opportunity, the jobs, the business, the revenue that would come from such a project. But then you have to think about who's going to be running amok. The degenerates, the gamblers, the prostitution, any illicit activity. So no, if somebody were to ask me, do I want a casino built in my neighborhood? The answer would be an emphatic no. Now let's get into it. Queens is getting one of the largest casino developments in the country. It's being built next to Citi Field on land that is owned by New York City and legally considered part of Flushing Meadows Corona Park. You heard that right. This is going to be built in Flushing Meadow Park. That is our Central Park in this northern part of Queens. Now, I grew up here. I'm born and raised. I can walk to Citi Field. I've walked many times from the games back home, and I've walked directly to the games. I know where to park as a local. I've passed this stadium at least 1,000 times. This is your overhead view. And just so you know where this is going to be built, over here on the right-hand side, this is the eastern part. LaGuardia Airport is just north of here. If you take a look at Citi Field, the right-hand side is already reserved. That stadium is already up for New York City FC. That is our soccer team. Over here on the left-hand side, the surrounding area to the north, to the west, and to the south, and just south of Roosevelt Avenue will be developed into a stadium and park. This is how it's going to look. Now, mind you, and this is still mind-boggling to me. I can't even understand this. That right there, that you see up on screen, that's 50 acres of land. There are roughly 44,000 square feet in 1 acre. That is 50 acres of land. I just can't even put my finger on that. Like, I can't even understand that, but that's apparently the case. Now, here's my question. Did the people of Queens ever say that we wanted a casino here? The project is called Metropolitan Park. It is approximately $8.1 billion in development, and it's being created by Mets owner Steve Cohen and Hard Rock International. The plan includes a full casino and sportsbook, a Hard Rock hotel, restaurants, a food hall featuring Queens businesses, a concert venue, convention space, athletic fields, transit improvements, new roads, parking garages, and approximately 25 acres of publicly accessible green space. Sounds good on the surface. The casino received its final state gaming license on December 15, 2025. Construction was expected to begin in 2026, with the development scheduled to open by June 2030. The casino will be built in the enormous parking lots surrounding Citi Field to the north, the west, and the south. And yes, those parking lots have been barren for decades. Most people are probably going to agree that an ocean of asphalt around them is probably not the best use of valuable land in the middle of New York City, but the choice was never limited to a casino or an empty parking lot. So we can't really say, hey, at least we got a casino, it's better than nothing. We have to compare it to anything else we could have gotten. We have to compare it to all the other alternatives. We could have considered a larger public park, affordable housing, environmental restoration, recreational facilities, cultural space, locally owned businesses, or some combination of those things. There was, in fact, an alternative proposal called Phoenix Meadows. Phoenix Meadows was developed by a coalition of community organizations after Steve Cohen's casino proposal emerged. It envisioned approximately 65 to 68 acres of public parkland with the existing parking moved underground. The proposal included thousands of trees, athletic fields, wetlands, environmental restoration, public recreation, and infrastructure designed to absorb stormwater in an area already vulnerable to flooding. Now I have to ask you a question. What if all of this was instead a parkland? A lot of it is green. I mean, this is Flushing Meadow Park. This is our land. We're paying for it. We own this as New Yorkers. And I think the right term to use is public land. Now, Phoenix Meadows was a community vision. It was not an equally financed, city-sponsored development competing with the casino on identical terms. It did not come with Steve Cohen and Hard Rock's billions of dollars, political campaigning, lobbyists, union agreements, or a casino generating enough money to finance the surrounding construction. Because nobody cares about giving us more access to parklands, right? There's got to be something behind it. The only reason why something like this could ever even be conjured up was because someone was going to be making money off of it. Someone was going to be profiteering, benefiting from it. And that's Steve Cohen, his coalition of investors, including Hard Rock. Now, from the research that I could find, New York City was not conducting some large competitive process in which it solicited fully financed proposals for every possible use of this land and then objectively selected a casino. Phoenix Meadows largely emerged as a reaction to Metropolitan Park. So what are we saying here? Steve Cohen bought the Mets, and oh, by the way, I was really happy about that. You know why? Money buys championships. So when I heard that a billionaire owner, someone that was actually in love with the Mets, wanted to buy the team instead of the Wilpons and was going to put money against it, I was excited. I actually said that we would have a championship within 5 years. That didn't come to fruition. Shit happens. A couple years later, they introduced the idea of Metropolitan Park. And as a reaction, the public said, whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah, we weren't necessarily thinking about using this land for anything else, but we don't want a casino. A lot of people have said that because what does a casino bring? Again, a lot of illicit activity. Are you really going to want to be hanging out in one of these parks when people are coming in and out, drinking, doing drugs? That's what they do in casinos. That's how it is. And oh, by the way, does the house ever lose? No. So I would say that this would be to the detriment of society, to the detriment of Corona, Queens. Now, why wouldn't the city, if they actually cared about us, why wouldn't the city, where are our state senators, where's everybody that's saying, hey, we're not using this land? And oh, by the way, Citi Field sits in Flushing Meadow Park. Yeah. Citi Field and the surrounding area in which they are going to develop, this is all Flushing Meadow Park. You guys want to look at the map again? This is it right here. Citi Field, the total area around it. Again, New York City FC is right here on the right-hand side. It's already developed. And this is all an extension of Flushing Meadow Park. But we don't look at it that way because nobody ever tells us what we can or can't have. Nobody ever actually looks into this. And now it's going to be a casino. And the question that I have is, yes, this was unused land. It was all used for parking. We had festivals and concerts out in the parking lot. But is this the best use of our land? And more importantly, most importantly, do New Yorkers, do Queens natives, do we want a casino in our neighborhood? Now, I'm not going to paint a picture one way or another. We're only going to say the facts here. Now, Phoenix Meadows largely emerged as a reaction to Metropolitan Park. That matters because there is probably some truth to the argument that without Steve Cohen, these parking lots might have remained parking lots for many more years. The impetus here was all because Steve Cohen and Hard Rock had the idea of the casino to begin with. The city had decades to turn this area into a major public park, affordable housing, or an economic center. It didn't do it. But then when we hear a billionaire wants to invest or do something with our land, we react. Maybe shame on us for not being proactive enough. But I can't put this on the public. We have our lives to live. The significant momentum arrived after Cohen bought the Mets and proposed investing billions of dollars around Citi Field. Maybe that was the hidden agenda all along. So this is not necessarily a story where the city rejected a fully funded public park and chose a casino instead, but it is still fair to ask whether Cohen's proposal should have triggered an open competition for the best possible use of public land. Because does it really matter the timeline of events? What exactly was the sequence here? I guess it's important. But once they announce a casino, we should have the right. We should vote to say whether we want one or not, shouldn't we? Once someone expressed interest in developing it, why wasn't the question opened up? What else could be built there? Could another developer propose housing? Could the city create a park and commercial district without a casino? I would have liked that. Is this the exposure that you want to families and children? Is this what we need in our city? I don't think so. Could we have had restaurants, hotels, sports facilities, entertainment, and public space without making gambling the financial centerpiece? Yes, we could have. Maybe it wouldn't have been as lucrative for everyone involved. But I gotta put this back on the leadership of New York City. What are you guys doing for us? And don't tell me that you haven't thought this through. And yes, Mamdani just got there, but he's gotta have an opinion on this. He can't be mum on this issue. Eric Adams is certainly to blame. Governor Kathy Hochul, we're gonna get to them. Where is the due diligence to say, this is what Queens really needs, especially in that area? You know that it's a tough area in Corona. It's a large immigrant population. I would say it's grossly underdeveloped, lower income population. Do we want to give them something that's going to improve their livelihoods? I'm the mayor right now. Put your mayor hat on right now. What do you think Corona Queens needs? Even if you can't say, I think furthest towards the bottom of the list, the last thing that we would need is a casino. Now, you might say that the casino was the only business capable of generating enough private profit to pay for everything surrounding it. But that is the actual choice Queens should have been allowed to examine. Is this a democracy or not? Or do the rich take all? Cohen bought the Mets from the Wilpon family in 2020 for approximately $2.4 billion. He did not purchase all of the surrounding parking lots outright. The city owns the land and has historically leased it for parking associated with Citi Field and the US Open. Despite being covered in asphalt, the property was legally classified as parkland. That created a major obstacle because you cannot ordinarily take public parkland and build a privately operated casino on it. Cohen needed the state legislature to pass parkland alienation legislation, whatever the hell that means, allowing the land to be used for commercial development. Now, of course, we did get opposition in droves. Local state senator Jessica Ramos opposed the casino and refused to introduce that legislation. She proposed an alternative that would have allowed development around Citi Field while specifically excluding casino gambling. Eventually, State Senator John Liu, who represents a neighboring district and a smaller portion of the project site, introduced legislation permitting the casino development. The Assembly passed it overwhelmingly. The Senate passed it 54-5. Governor Kathy Hochul signed it on June 18th, 2025. The project also went through the city's land use process. The city council approved the necessary zoning changes 41-2. A 6-member community advisory committee then voted unanimously to advance the proposal. All but a formality at that point. The State Gaming Facility Location Board selected it on December 1, 2025, and the Gaming Commission gave it final approval on December 15. So the project went through a legal approval process. There were workshops, there were public hearings, there were community board meetings, there were eventually environmental reviews, and elected officials voted on it. However, Queens residents, they never received a direct referendum. Had you been given the opportunity, I don't know, let's say we could have had a voting mechanism sent to our phones, a poll introduced to all the residents in this area, in these surrounding zip codes. Do you want a casino built here? Where's the consensus from the community? I mean, come on, y'all. I mean, life out there is hard enough. We all want a sense of purpose. We all want a sense of community. We all want a better quality of life. Especially in New York, where all you do is work out there. I want more parkland. I mean, there's been studies that show that this benefits us tremendously. Just having a little bit more green in the concrete jungle. And we give this land up to a casino, of all things, a casino? So nobody placed a question on our ballot asking, do you want a full-scale casino built on public land next to Citi Field? And again, I ask you, how would you have answered? The Community Advisory Committee was composed of appointees selected by elected officials. How convenient. They were already on board. But look at how many hurdles they had to cross. The governor, the state senate, the assembly, the city council, the community advisory committee, the gaming facility location board, the gaming commission. How many people had to be paid off? And before you sit there and you say, well, you don't have any evidence of this, really? Y'all, my sister is a construction project manager in New York City. She's been doing the job for over 20 years. I'm an IT project manager. I'm not saying I know better than anyone else, but especially with physical jobs, physical construction jobs, buildings, casinos, convention centers, hotels, there ain't no such thing as palms not getting greased. That's part of the ethics, the ethos in getting the job done, in pushing it through. You don't just get shit like this approved. Anyone involved in construction knows this. And I'm not saying that they know better. That's just how you get those jobs done. Queens residents didn't get to vote on this. We probably didn't even know that this was part of Flushing Meadow Park, that this was public land, that our taxpayer dollars own this. We own this, y'all. Is New York ours or not? I'm asking. Were you ever checked in with? Were you ever asked, do you want a casino here? Did you even know that this was public land? Did you even know that this was part of Flushing Meadows? Wouldn't it have been nice, if you've been to Flushing Meadow Park, wouldn't it have been nice to see some type of development around Citi Field that connects into the heart of Flushing Meadow Park? Look at it. Look at it. That's Citi Field. Look at that barren land. That's all parking lots. We couldn't have just extended the park out north, made it more green, given some vitality to the neighborhood? No, it's all about money, right? Private investment. And let me come back to it. It's a damn shame. It's a damn shame that the impetus was Steve Cohen. A billionaire had to open up his fat mouth to say, hey, we want to do something around Citi Field. And then there was an uproar. I'm not saying that now he should be given carte blanche to do whatever he wants. I still don't want a casino. I don't give a shit where we are in the timeline here. But where is New York representation? You see everybody on the left here? You see this, right? This is the community, okay? This is where I grew up, East Elmhurst, outside LaGuardia Airport, yeah? Did they ask any of us here on the left-hand side? Did they ask any of us here on the right-hand side? You see all the homes, right? Look at how densely populated this city is. They said no. This is going to benefit a few private investors. Last time I checked, the house always wins. And we're going to create a money-sucking, money-generating casino in the heart of Queens. And for all of you Queens natives that I grew up with, that helped pave the way here, for the people that worked hard in New York, the people from this area, you have a right to say, I don't think this is good for our community. I don't give a shit where you move to. You invested your life here just by simply being alive and being part of the rhythm and heart of this neighborhood. They're going to build a casino in the middle of all of this? I don't know how that can be interpreted as beneficial to our quality of life. I'm essentially a 25-minute walk from here, from Citi Field. 10-minute bike ride. So yes, we had a ton of alternatives. This is what we got stuck with. Why? Because there's some serious money involved. But again, most importantly, how does anyone get away with this? The series of approvals, the money involved, the contracts, the changing of laws. This was all happening over the last 5 years. Am I blaming you? Hell no. I'm from Queens. I live in Queens. Am I blaming myself? No, I have a life to live. Everybody has to take care of their jobs, their families, their livelihoods. Where is our representation? And oh, by the way, come on, y'all. This is a website directly opposed and trying to take action to stop the casino from being developed. There were marches, there were protests, there were petitions. I think it's safe to say that Queens did not want this to happen. And we're getting it anyway. So whose city is it? It's not my city. If you speak for us, but don't give us a chance to speak for ourselves. And I don't care, at the end of the day, it's spilled milk. I don't care what senator, what council member said what. You didn't do enough. We could have had a convention center. We could have had a hotel. We could have had beautiful parkland. We could have developed this entire area and made it look as illustrious as any one of these renderings, just minus the casino. So again, the Community Advisory Committee, which voted unanimously to approve the casino, one of the many steps in the sequence. Remember how many people had to approve and all the laws that had to be changed. The Community Advisory Committee was composed of appointees selected by elected officials. It was not a group directly elected by Queens residents to answer this specific question. Rank with corruption, is it not? Rank with them getting their way. The developers said they held 16 workshops and met with thousands of residents. They also cited polling showing more than 80% support across Queens. Take that with a grain of salt. I could create fake polls right now. And again, it's not because I'm completely opposed to this. Did people even know that this was public land? Did people even know that this was part of Flushing Meadow Park? Did people even know that we had to change laws? Did they know how many people were involved? Did they know anything about Steve Cohen's background? And you think 80% support across Queens? Since when do we get, and I love using the 80-20 rule. I've used it for the majority of my life. 80%, 20%, 80-20 rule. Since when do we get 80% consensus on anything? The last time I heard 80% consensus was Vladimir Putin got like 90% of the vote in Russia. And you know, that's total baloney. Now, of course, opponents have cited different polling showing substantial opposition in the immediate district where the casino will be located, because Queens residents spoke up. One poll reported that approximately 61% of likely Democratic voters in the district opposed it. Those figures are not necessarily contradictory. Queens is enormous. A borough-wide poll can produce a different result from a poll of people living in Corona, Flushing, East Elmhurst, and the neighborhoods closest to the project. So whose opinion should carry the most weight? The entire borough, the immediate neighborhoods, the elected officials, or the residents who will live with the traffic, environmental effects, gambling activity, and economic changes every day? Now, most importantly, we have to ask whether this will actually help Queens. The developers project more than 17,000 direct construction jobs and slightly more than 6,000 permanent jobs once Metropolitan Park opens. Approximately 2,000 of those permanent positions would be part-time. The project has agreements with construction and hospitality unions and promises a local hiring preference. It also includes a claimed community benefits package of more than $1 billion. That includes approximately $320 million to build, operate, and maintain the 25 acres of public space, approximately $480 million in transit and infrastructure investment, $163 million for a community impact trust, $150 million for the Taste of Queens food hall and community space, and additional money for health, youth, senior, mental health, addiction, and anti-displacement programs. There is also a separate agreement connected to more than 450 proposed affordable apartments in Corona, but those apartments are not being built on the main casino site, and the commitment initially took the form of a memorandum of understanding with another developer. Now, that is different from replacing the casino with a large affordable housing development on public land itself. Metropolitan Park is projected to generate approximately $3.9 billion in annual revenue by its third year of operation and around $850 million in annual city and state tax revenue. But those, of course, are projections submitted by the developer. They are not guaranteed outcomes. They usually never are. They're usually inflated. And city and state tax revenue does not mean that all money remains in Corona, Flushing, East Elmhurst, or even Queens. The casino paid a $500 million licensing fee with the downstate casino fees helping fund the MTA. Are we getting robbed of our own land? That's what it sounds like. Public records also show a transaction involving an interest in a portion of the land valued at approximately $282 million. However, the complete long-term lease and development terms have not been presented publicly in a way that allows an ordinary Queens resident to easily answer some basic questions. How much rent will Queens future pay every year? How much rent will Queens Future pay every year? How will that rent increase over time? Will the property pay normal property taxes, payments in lieu of taxes, or receive another form of special treatment, a la tax breaks? What is the total value of any tax exemptions, infrastructure assistance, or public support? Which public benefits are legally enforceable? So they just said they're going to spend $8.1 billion on this development. They also said that they're going to give Queens a $1 billion benefits package. They said that they're going to create thousands of jobs. But they're not telling us where this money is going to go to directly. Where do you think it's going to go, y'all? You think your life is going to improve as a result of having a casino adjacent to you in your neighborhood? No. The people that own the casino, the people that have invested in that land, are going to reap the benefits. And if the developer fails to produce the promised jobs, local hiring, affordable housing, transit improvements, or community investment, what penalties will it face? All of these are unanswered questions. We don't know anything about the rent. We don't know anything about them paying property taxes and when and what assistance we gave them. We don't know if it's legally enforceable to guarantee these public benefits that they're promising us. So again, I ask you, leadership of New York City, leadership of Queens, state and city council members, what are you doing for us exactly? The project is described as privately financed, which means the developers say the approximately $8 billion construction cost will not be directly paid by taxpayers, but privately financed does not automatically tell us the complete public cost. The land has value, tax treatment has value, zoning changes have value. The infrastructure has value. The right to operate one of only a few legal casinos in New York City has enormous value. Anybody paying attention to that? Or was that lost in the sauce? So Queens residents deserve a straightforward public accounting. What are Steve Cohen and Hard Rock receiving? What are they paying? What is the public contributing? And what is Queens guaranteed in return? Has anyone answered that question? Where's the assessment being done? And again, let me ask the question clearly. Do you want a casino in your neighborhood, or would you have opted for either affordable housing or parkland, or a combination of both? Then we have the larger economic question: does a casino actually create new wealth for the surrounding neighborhood? Casinos unquestionably produce jobs. They employ dealers, hotel workers, security officers, cooks, cleaners, servers, entertainers, maintenance workers, accountants, and managers. They also purchase food, equipment, laundry, construction, security, and other services. If those contracts go to Queens companies and the employees live in Queens, some of that money will circulate through the local economy. Great. The development may also attract tourists who otherwise would not have visited the area. Visitors could attend a Mets game, the US Open, a New York City FC match, a concert, and the casino during one trip. The Mets Willets Point area could become a genuine year-round sports and entertainment district instead of a train station people use only when there is a game or a tournament. And that is the strongest economic argument for the casino. But of course, there is another side. Casino revenue is not automatically new money. If someone from Queens spends $500 at Metropolitan Park, instead of spending that money at local restaurants, shops, theaters, sporting events, or other businesses, the casino has redirected existing spending. Economists call that substitution or cannibalization. That's why a lot of places around the United States actually don't want a Walmart, because it would hurt and thwart small businesses. And of course, casinos are designed to keep people inside. Metropolitan Park will have its own hotel, restaurants, bars, stores, food halls. They're gonna have an entertainment venue and convention facilities. A visitor can arrive, eat, drink, gamble, sleep, and leave without spending any money at an independently owned business in Corona or downtown Flushing. And that creates another question. Will the casino support the surrounding business community, or will it become a self-contained economy that competes against it? I don't know. When's the last time you went to Atlantic City? When's the last time you went to Las Vegas? When's the last time you went to any casino? Did you leave the casino? And if you left the casino, where'd you go? You probably went to another casino, right? You're not just out and about trying to go to other stores. Again, this isn't the wealthiest of neighborhoods. That's probably why it was chosen to begin with. Research has found that casinos can increase employment and economic activity, particularly when they attract visitors and money from outside the region, but the benefits can decline over time, especially in areas where several casinos compete for the same customers. And Queens is not getting a casino in isolation. Resorts World at Aqueduct, that's in the south of Queens, is already operated as a racino, racing and a casino, and also received a license to become a complete casino with live dealers. Queens is moving toward having 2 full casinos in the same borough. And that only increases the possibility that these casinos will compete for existing New York gamblers rather than bringing billions of completely new dollars into the city. There's also economic research that's found that commercial casinos do not necessarily produce large net increases in government revenue because gambling can replace other taxable spending. The casino collects the money, but the restaurant, store, theater, or other business loses the purchase that consumer loses the purchase that loses the purchase that the consumer might otherwise have made. So there's an opportunity cost here at play. Where am I going to spend my money? Of course, there's a scarcity of resources. Am I going to go to that one-stop shop? Am I going to go to that one-stop shop, that casino that has it all? And then am I going to step out of there and actually go into Corona and go support small businesses? Probably not. Now, people often associate casinos with struggling cities, organized crime, prostitution, addiction, and an underground nightlife. Historically, that image did not come from nowhere. Atlantic City legalized casinos as a way to rescue a declining local economy. Casinos created jobs and tax revenue, but they did not transform Atlantic City into a broadly prosperous city. Have you been to Atlantic City? It's desolate and impoverished. Much of the development remained concentrated around casino properties, while poverty and urban decline persisted around them. Why do you think that is? Because no one wants to live around the casino. Are we destroying our city? Are we promoting destitution? There are major casinos that operate in economically successful places such as Singapore, Boston, and parts of the Washington metropolitan area. A casino does not automatically create prostitution or organized crime. But the more defensible concern is that a casino does not necessarily repair the underlying economy of its neighborhood. It can create an extremely profitable island without producing broad prosperity outside of its walls. Think about it. Look at this rendering. Why would you come here, go to a baseball game, go see some tennis, and then go to the surrounding neighborhoods? We have vibrant and thriving neighborhoods. I'm from here. I live here. I love this area. I would rather spend time in Corona or Flushing with the real people, with the locals, with the people that make these neighborhoods. But would the average tourist be willing to do so? Probably not. They're not familiar with the area. They're probably going to consider it unsafe. It's not as developed. It's not as attractive. So where are they going to spend that almighty dollar? It's either in one place or the other. This is essentially an island that protects or shields them from the rest. Of course, there are documented social risks. Most people who enter a casino will not become addicted, but the business depends on customers losing money. Heavy gamblers usually generate a disproportionate share of casino revenue. Is that what you want? You want people losing their livelihoods at a casino in the heart of our neighborhood? And the closer gambling is to people's homes, and it's going to be right next to our homes, the easier and more normalized it becomes. I might even go. Why? It's just another thing to do, another attraction. And when you make it that accessible, people will be drawn to it. And of course that matters. In a part of Queens containing working class families, real working class families, y'all, immigrants, senior citizens, and residents, most of whom already face financial pressure. So if Metropolitan Park eventually produces nearly $4 billion in annual revenue, we need to ask where that money is coming from. How much will come from tourists? How much will come from Queens residents? Which neighborhoods and zip codes will produce the grading gambling losses? How much revenue will come from people demonstrating signs of problems gambling? Will any of that information be made public? I don't know. Are we going to trust the same gaming commissions and advisory committees, council members and state senators that approve this to begin with? Am I supposed to rely on them as the source of information? The casino is promising funding for addiction and mental health services. But Queens should not have to rely entirely on the casino industry to tell us whether the casino industry is harming people. That's got to be independently vetted, right? We need public reporting and guaranteed funding based on actual casino revenue, not merely a temporary community donation. What about the environmental impact? What about the environmental impact? The property sits in a flood-prone area near Flushing Creek and Flushing Bay. The surrounding communities already deal with drainage, sewage, contamination, air pollution, and traffic. And oh yeah, the air pollution's really bad over there. Metropolitan Park says it will add green space, plant trees, improve drainage, and invest in climate infrastructure. Phoenix Meadows argued that a much larger natural park could absorb stormwater and restore the surrounding environment without placing a casino in the middle of it. Again, look at how barren that land is. Wouldn't you have liked for us to just extend Flushing Meadow Park, plant a bunch of trees, and give us another place to call home in which we can bring our families, our pets, have barbecues, play a little soccer, some sports, maybe have a convention center? Why introduce gambling into the fore? So the question is not simply whether Metropolitan Park will be greener than a parking lot. Of course, 25 acres of designed green space will probably look better than concrete. The question is whether the casino development is environmentally better than the strongest realistic alternative. Will the new infrastructure reduce flooding throughout the surrounding neighborhoods? Or will it primarily protect the casino property? How much additional traffic will be generated? Can the 7 train, Long Island Railroad, Grand Central Parkway, Van Wyck Expressway, Northern Boulevard, and local streets absorb millions of additional visitors? And will the public actually use this park as a neighborhood park? That's my question. Am I really going to want to be sitting outside of a casino? The renderings show attractive fields, paths, and green areas. But the casino is the economic centerpiece of the project. Let us not be fooled here. Will families feel like they are visiting a public extension of Flushing Meadow Park? Or will it feel like landscaped space attached to a Hard Rock casino? I would argue the latter. Now that's going to depend on who controls the park, its operating rules, whether it is genuinely accessible at all hours, whether public events remain affordable, and whether the space can ever be closed for private casino functions. And this brings us back to Steve Cohen. Cohen is a lifelong Mets fan, a New Yorker, the chairman and CEO of Point72 Capital, and one of the richest people in the country. When he bought the Mets, many fans were excited, like myself. After years of the Wilpons, the Mets finally had an owner willing to spend enough money to compete. But Cohen's financial history is also relevant. He was never personally charged or convicted of insider trading. However, SAC Capital, the hedge fund he founded and controlled, pleaded guilty in 2013 to securities fraud and wire fraud involving widespread insider trading by employees. They paid approximately $1.8 billion in penalties. That's no small number. And stopped managing outside investors' money. Are you kidding me? Cohen later settled a separate SEC case accusing him of failing to supervise one of those employees without admitting or denying the findings. Wow. I mean, the guy was literally caught red-handed. This is who we gave the Mets to, and this is who we're allowing to build a casino in our neighborhood. And again, I used to like Steve Cohen, but I would think, like most people, I didn't know who he really was. I didn't know enough about his history. I looked at it as if we were getting a billionaire sports owner and we were going to win a championship with the Mets. Now, was the casino always part of the plan? It's fair to ask that question. Owning the Mets gave Cohen a powerful position around some of the most strategically valuable land in Queens. This property sits next to Citi Field, the number 7 train, the Long Island Railroad, major highways, LaGuardia Airport, the US Open, Flushing Meadow Park, and the future New York City FC Stadium. I mean, y'all, look at this place on a map. It doesn't get any better than this. You are about 20 minutes out, 25 minutes out, no traffic, directly to the heart of Manhattan. This is all golden real estate here. From the west to the east. This man is no fool. Now, there is no public evidence proving that Cohen bought the Mets primarily as a backdoor method of obtaining a casino. That remains a theory. That remains the theory. But what we can say is that buying the Mets gave Cohen influence over the site and made him the natural person to lead a massive redevelopment of the surrounding parking lots. And I know most of us are going to say, hey, this is great for business development and economic opportunity. But again, couldn't we have had all of this without the casino? Who's a casino good for? Draining our wealth? Draining our hard-earned dollars? Making addicts out of working day families? Out of working class families? Because I think we can all say objectively that there are good and bad aspects of society. I don't think one that draws us into drinking, drugs, and gambling our livelihoods away is one of them. And here's the kicker. The casino could eventually become more profitable than the baseball team. Yeah, the Mets. We should also separate the New York City FC stadium from Cohen's project. Steve Cohen is not building Etihad Park. That stadium is a separate project owned by New York City FC's ownership group. It is part of a different Willets Point development that includes thousands of apartments, affordable housing, retail, a hotel, and a school. But the stadium, Citi Field, the US Open, and Metropolitan Park will all exist within the same larger sports and entertainment district. Together, these projects will completely transform this section of Queens. And maybe that transformation will be beneficial. Development can be better than neglect. Thousands of people may obtain good jobs. Queens could receive improved public transportation, new recreational space, restaurants, entertainment, tourism, and billions of dollars in economic activity. The parking lots were not serving Queens particularly well, but we should stop presenting this as though a casino was the only imaginable alternative to doing nothing. This was public land. It was our land, and we were never asked for it. The city could have solicited competing development proposals. It could have examined housing, recreation, environmental restoration, commercial development, cultural institutions, and combinations of all of them. Most likely that would have greatly benefited the neighborhood. Maybe none of those alternatives would have received $8 billion in private financing. Maybe nothing would have happened without Steve Cohen. He was the impetus. That's entirely possible. But once the land attracted this level of interest, Queens residents should have been given a much clearer opportunity to decide what kind of development they wanted. Because Steve Cohen and Hard Rock are not spending $8 billion as a gift to Queens. They believe this casino will make an enormous amount of money. There are going to be investors and business owners that will become extremely wealthy from it. The public is contributing something extraordinarily valuable. Control over public land in one of the best connected locations in New York City, one of the most sought after pieces of real estate. So what exactly are we receiving in return? Are the jobs guaranteed to Queens residents? No. Are the parks permanently protected for public use? We haven't gotten an answer on that. Will independently owned businesses share in the economic activity? That's a big question mark. Probably not. If you spend on that island, why would you go out to Corona or Flushing? Are the affordable apartments guaranteed to be completed? We haven't heard any. We haven't heard any opinions on that. And who's going to pay for additional policing, sanitation, traffic control, and infrastructure? Probably taxpayers. And oh, by the way, what happens to all the casino revenue? Does it stay in Queens or does it just go to the city? And just because you're going to set up some group for gambling addiction, who's going to pay for the families damaged by it? I'm not just being it's hard not to be a complete cynic here because it's a casino. Maybe Metropolitan Park becomes one of the most successful developments New York has ever built. Maybe it transforms an underused parking lot into a thriving destination and provides thousands of stable jobs. But maybe it becomes an extremely profitable casino surrounded by communities that absorb the congestion, displacement, gambling losses, and environmental consequences. The decision has effectively been made. The casino already has its license. Were we ever given a say? And Queens residents still deserve to know who made this decision, what alternatives were seriously considered, what the developers are paying for the land, what public support they are receiving, and how every major promise will be enforced. Because the central question was never simply, is a casino better than a parking lot? The real question was, what was the best possible use of this public land, and did the people of Queens ever get a meaningful say? So yes, this will go down in the history books as one of the most transformational developments we have ever seen in New York City. It should also be written that the rich got away with it. That this was a concession that we made of our land unbeknownst to us. And unfortunately, that's still happening with all of the avenues of communication and methods to get the message out. It's unfortunate that this was taken from us without ever getting a chance to vote. Thank you for watching. See you next time.